Now, Dr. Badel says he's very happy about the LSU Ag Center Animal Sciences building being funded and wants to thank Hampton Grunwald with the LSU Ag Center, Sandy Mapes, and the person sitting right across from me right now, Joe Mapes, the legislative specialist for the Louisiana Farm Bureau. Joe, what was the secret to getting that funding after, what, since 1980 they've been fighting for it?
Yes, that's true, and the secret was pressure. You got to keep that pressure on from the moment you get the money in the bill till the bill is finally passed through the entire part of the process. Anytime one institution has money in House Bill 2, which is the construction project bill, that keeps another institution's money out.
Now, what other bills for agriculture did you have to fight for this session?
We had a bill that Farm Bureau sponsored, which created a commission that allows the Commissioner of Agriculture to lord over all rules and regulations regarding management, best management practices of poultry and livestock. This is important because the Humane Society of the U.S. has got a nationwide campaign to try and take over these matters like they did with Proposition 2 in November of 2008 in California. That's why we have foster farms here in Louisiana now. We don't want that same thing to happen here. The bill goes farther to say that no local government can create an ordinance or any type of a law without the commissioner signing off on that ordinance. So we passed that bill. We passed a bill that would create an agricultural exemption for the use of surface water if the state of Louisiana ever determines that it does own surface water. So far it has not made that determination. However, there's been 6 Attorney General's opinions stating, based on the Constitution, that the state does own surface water. So in the event that the state comes along and says that, as long as a riparian landowner, which is a landowner attached to a body of water, is using his water for agricultural purposes, that would be exempt, and he can also share or sell that water to an adjacent property owner as long as it's for agricultural uses as well. We also passed a piece of legislation based on a U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal regarding private railroad crossings, which says that if a railroad wants to shut down a crossing, it takes the current process that we passed 2 years ago at the PSC, Public Service Commission, and says instead of using the standard that's there now, which is safety, we're going to use this standard that came from the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is transportation. And you would have to substantially or unreasonably affect transportation for the PSC to allow the railroads to shut this crossing down. That's a much stricter standard, a much more difficult burden of proof on the railroads before we shut a private crossing down. This is going to force the railroads to go to the landowner and talk to them about what their most important crossings are regarding their agricultural operations, and that's all we ever wanted to begin with.
Well, I know something that really botched up everything with the legislature and with the state was the oil leak there in the Gulf on April 20th. Once the explosion of the Deepwater Horizon happened, I think everything across the state changed. What changed there at the legislature?
We came in March 29th. What was it, 21 days later on the 20th, the oil disaster occurs. That just loomed over every issue. If a group or a legislator was able to attach that oil disaster to an issue up there in the Capitol, it began to just completely redesign that issue in one way or the other, either passing it or killing it. Matter of fact, on the last day of the session, the President of the Senate was trying to pass a bill to allow the Attorney General to hire lawyers on a contingency basis to go after this BP disaster down there. It became a big conflagration on the House floor, and that bill died, and it was a really nasty scene in the waning moments of that session.
And disasters always when you see the best and the worst come out of people, and also when things can get more political than you would hope.
Correct. That is correct.
He is Joe Mapes, the legislative specialist for the Louisiana Farm Bureau, and I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot more, Mike, about the oil spill next session because they're going to be passing bills that will deal with that then.
Thanks, Avery.